another topic is about someone's expression that someone can achieve Saroyan's expression, some philosopher which I never heard about before, that the amount of goodness we experience in life comes from the amount of failure someone also experiences. So, all the authors say that they disagree with Saroyan's sentiment at the beginning. They say, in my opinion, it implies to the amount of failure one experiences. In other words, those who were born into fortunate circumstance or are successful in their endeavors cannot achieve goodness, no matter how philanthropic their intentions may be. By another token, a person who is severely developmentally disabled may not be able to recognize failure in his or her own life. Saroyan seems to indicate that they must then all be bad people. So this expression, as all expressions of course, has their limitations. It means that generally it is definitely acceptable, but if, for example, a person is developmentally disabled, it doesn't mean that they cannot fail all the time or experiences all ups and downs in life and somehow become good through the failure. For example, let me start with my essay. I partially disagree with Saroyan's sentiment. To my knowledge, it strongly correlates to the amount of failure. To say it differently, it mostly depends on how much a person is fortunate about the effort in life, or how successful they are in it to achieve their goals, no matter how ambitious the person is. By another means, if a person has limitations about developing a failure, someone might conclude that those people must be bad people. My own aunt was born with Down syndrome. She was kind, altruistic, and heartbreaking naive. I remember one incident in particular when we visited an amusement park with my little brothers. My aunt was approached by a mascot who extended his hand for a shake. My brothers immediately began mocking him, pointing out that he was not real and they could see his hair under the costume zipper. My aunt was so upset she refused to speak to them for the rest of the day. Before we left, we bumped into a mascot again, or at least someone wearing that costume. My aunt ran back and tearfully apologized for my brother's behavior. Such tenderness can only come from someone good. Yet her family and school made sure she was shielded from any overacting feelings of failure. So basically, the most easiest example, the person has Down syndrome. So, as I understand, the person with Down syndrome is limited in their daily functions. So basically, the person is regarded as a disabled person, and if a person is disabled, they're limited in their failure too. Even though everybody knows that the person with Down syndrome has extremely warm-hearted people. Those are the patients with Down syndrome, they're extremely kind. So basically, they don't fail as much as everybody else, but they're kind people. So it means that all the expressions, of course, this expression has their own limitations. And I decided to talk about myself in the essay. I write, by myself, I always knew about my limitations. As a kid, I was fine, kind, and sensitive child or youngster. I remember when I was working as an intern right after school, I had to visit another lab as a part of my experiment. I want. I went to the lab with other fellows. At the corridor, we were approached by a strange-looking man who was unusually dressed. I remember. I remember that I extended my hand for a shake, as I get used to during my school years, but noticed immediately that I was unwelcomed by my companion. It was a disaster to me to see that the professor greeted everyone else. I had to talk to the same person the same day, and I had to thank him for our visit in the lab, but I still can recall him not shaking hands with me, even though my coworkers introduced me to him. I had to still work at the lab and succeeded during my experiments. I was humbled, and my attitude was always regarded as good. So basically, I tried to connect my uh, incident in life which happened to me, that the person just really didn't want to shake hands with me, and it somehow offended me a little bit. And I think this person was just a little bit strange. So basically, it changed my attitude towards work, but I still kind of succeeded, and my behavior was still regarded as good, regardless of my like supervisor attitude. So what is it to do, for example, about uh, the Down syndrome? Because I'm so connected to the handshake. Of course, it's a little bit different from Down syndrome, but I think at work, basically, we are limited about the amount of failure. We cannot fail all the time, right? So basically, somehow we are related to the Down syndrome, that our attitude is flat. Nobody is asking, basically, in general, if you like what you do or you don't like. If you hired, when you was hired, you have to like your job. So nobody is asking if you like it or don't like it. So basically, I was hired for a job, and when I came to see the professor, I was treated as a person who has Down syndrome, who basically shouldn't care about handshaking, and basically for me it was humiliating, and to me personally it was a failure. And regardless of this, I basically stayed neutral, and even though I didn't like it, I continued working, and I still remember that when I was working, I basically didn't hear about my professor, and all my actions were regarded as good. And what else does the author write? Some people seem born with innate goodness. Mother Teresa, a winner of the Nobel Prize for Peace, knew she wanted to dedicate her life to missionary work when she was only a young girl. According to the Buddhist religion, Siddhartha was born as a royal prince who never knew and let the students observe the little creature who never knew of suffering until he observed it, not experienced it when he felt his palace for the first time as a young man. He is now more commonly known as Buddha. Alright, I don't write about Buddha, but I just mentioned those people who were all their life humbled and still successful and still regarded as extremely good people. Some people like Mother Teresa, Nelson Mandela are born with innate goodness. According to many religions of the world, goodness is worshipped as a main pivotal part of life, as Jesus Christ and Buddha, for example. It is true that great suffering or failure can bring about wisdom and therefore goodness. People such as Mahatma Gandhi and Nelson Mandela embody such an idea. However, I cannot abide by the notion that only through failure can one become good. It is true that suffering and failure can bring wisdom and goodness in life. Some people, as Mahatma Gandhi and Nelson Mandela, epitomes of such ideas. However, I cannot argue all the time that failure can be a constant source of someone's goodness.